weaker and weaker. And the games have become more gender neutral in terms of player perspective, audience identification. And I think this is a good thing. And so to conclude, I really do believe that Final Fantasy as a series is extraordinarily feminist. Yay! If you disagree with anything I'm saying, send me an email. I would love to hear your rants. Or I could hear them now, actually.
I want to know all about those three characters. Who are they? I've never heard of them. Right there. Tell me all about them.
Okay. I'll take your bait. So, Terra, Solace, and Realm from Final Fantasy VI are characters who actually kind of kick ass and take names without the male cast. I don't know. If you can identify with anyone in the games or these three women, I can't really speak objectively about this game because it's my favorite, but if anyone else would like to say something about how awesome these three girls are, go for it.
I think it's great how Selly's in the middle when she's asked to be an opera singer. She says, "I'm a general, not an opera floozy." And that's not just a matter of her conditioning, but at the same time, I think she's expressing an emotional response, like saying, "I've thought this through, and I know what my background is, but it still sounds really stupid." And still, for the good of the mission, she'll do that.
Go for it.
I have a question concerning Final Fantasy IX with Garnet.
Yeah.
The kingdom that she hails from, Alexandria, is actually a female-run society in which at some point in the game it's stated that men in Alexandria are deemed useless. So what are your views on Garnet in general? Like, what do you...
So, for me, Garnet Dagger is a very difficult character. Because gameplay does characterize her as a white mage summoner, her ability is not achieved through training, it's an innate ability that she's born with. This is something that this kind of woman is magic traps women within their bodies. So again, it's the dichotomy, men have skill and training while women have innate ability. And if you're going to object to that, go for it.
Well, the only thing I kind of want to point out is before she even gets her summoner powers, she sneaks away with the party, tricks Steiner, her bodyguard, and goes off on her own in an attempt to get back to her mother. I think that's pretty, for lack of a better word, ballsy in itself for a little sheltered princess to do.
There is a bit of a dependence on Zidane that I find problematic, but you're absolutely right.
There can be male white mages.
True.
Definitely.
I'm just going to say that.
Oh, yeah.
It just happens to be that they just happen to choose that gender and class. There are, female warriors in Final Fantasy IX too.
Like Freya!
And Beatrix.
Beatrix!
I think it's sort of like coincidental in a way, not necessarily, true.
But is it coincidental that always has anybody seen Legend of the Seeker? Or even better, read Wizard's First Rule? Or even better, read Lord of the Rings? I'm sorry.
I saw a little bit of the Legend of the Seeker.
Okay. So Legend of the Seeker, Wizard's First Rule, big fat fantasy novel by Terry Goodkind. Our sword-wielding hero, Richard, is our hero, our seeker, our phallus wielder is definitely male, while the female character is a support character. She's the magical female in the white dress. And this is just a trope, I think, that's echoed ad infinitum. Why is it always, yes, men can be white mages too, that's very empowering, but why is it always the woman, it seems like?
The first white mage actually in Final Fantasy was in the original Final Fantasy II, and he's a man. His name's Minwu, I believe. So, but then again, that game wasn't. He has a few lines of character development, but your point about the first significant one is still valid.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Fantasy V chorus.
Yeah.
Who sneaks on, well, she basically commands the ship as looking like a man. So it's basically saying, like, she understands the stereotype of women not being like these big heroes, the powerful people, but she's breaking this. And so, in a sense, as early as Final Fantasy V, they're even breaking this tradition. So, I mean, it could be fair to say that it has progressed in when you see the sexism-ish thing. But I mean, I think it can jump around like from game to game.
Final Fantasy. Oh, sorry. Go on.
In Final Fantasy II, the leader of the resistance, the one who's in charge of your entire force,
Oh yeah.
is Hilda, a woman. It also has the first female party member, Maria. And she has a hotline. She can be just as strong as everyone else. 4 wasn't 48 more in depth, but 4 was not the first to do that.
No, indeed. I'm going to respond to that. There are definitely strong female characters, and even the earliest of the games, and even the latest of the games. But I hesitate to put too much emphasis on the early games, just because, at least in their initial incarnations, the extraordinary lack of dialogue. And I wonder also, the point I made perhaps with Eris is how I'm still trying to figure this out in my own mind, but when we do have a strong female character, how much does she actually exist for her own sake, and how much is she just a token to add spice for the male player? How much is she just, a wonderful romantic partner because she is strong? And I wonder about that, and I still don't know how to...
She's not your romantic. Hilda is not your romantic partner, though.
No, of course Hilda isn't, but
Rosa definitely isn't.
Rosa might be. No, that is a good point. And I apologize for not addressing it. So thank you very much for bringing it up. If there is a version 2.0 of this lecture, she's definitely going in there. Okay, so it's 10:30, and I think you guys are awesome and have better places to be. So unless you want to talk about ladies in Final Fantasy, so I'm just going to say, yay, Final Fantasy.
That's a great bit of artwork, that one right there. I'll have to look for it. Or is it like on DeviantArt or something?
No, it's not. It's on Fix.